Hey guys, good morning. I want to talk to you today a little bit about the crate. Most people, when they're going to go out and they're going to bring a dog home, whether it's a puppy or it's a rescue, they're going to get a crate. Crate is a very, very misunderstood and underused tool. So, everything I teach is based on the fact of I understand the worst case scenario. So, worst case scenario for me is whenever the dog is put in a position where they can hurt themselves, another animal, another person, or cost you a ton of money. Right? That's what we want to avoid. And I see where things start small and then they get bigger and then they end up doing one of those things where somebody gets hurt or you end up putting out a lot of money. And if your dog bites somebody or another animal or damages something, you're going to be paying a lot of money, and there's nothing cheap about it. So we want to avoid that. And once we keep that in mind, then it's also, again, we want to keep the animal safe. So crates get, from a lot of people, a bad rap. People feel like they're putting their dog in jail. Not the case. That's kind of ridiculous. It's like when the babies are little and you put them in a crib or a playpen, do you think you're putting them in jail? No. You're making sure what? That they can't get hurt. So when you can't put a solid eye on a baby who doesn't know how or why not to do things yet, you just can't let them have the run of the house. So the number one reason why, or I should say, we'll say the number one reason. As a retired police officer, I can tell you that if you call 911, the first thing you're going to do is tell you secure any animals. And they're not going to listen that my dog's friendly, my dog doesn't bite. That's not going to be a good answer for them. So if your dog is not used to going into the crate, when you have this, God forbid, this medical emergency going on, you're going to have to scramble. Your dog's going to be all fired up and excited because somebody in the house in their pack is injured or ill, and you're going to have anxiety about that. And so as you're trying to chase them around and get them, so what are you going to do? You're going to put them in a room if you don't have a crate, or in a basement, or maybe outside, whatever. Depending on the circumstances of the emergency, it's still going to be a bad thing when somebody forgets, or it's, policeman, firefighter, EMS, whatever, opens up the door that the dog is behind. We especially don't want that to be the front door. I can't tell you as a first responder how many times I've knocked on a door and the person has not been able to come in, or been able to come to the door, I should say, and they'll say, come in, and you hear a dog on the other side of the door. I've never been afraid of dogs. I'm really not afraid of getting bit, and I've always been that way. So I'll go in. A lot of firefighters, police, EMS, they've had a lot of bad experiences with dogs, kind of like the postman. So when they hear that dog on the other side of the door, they may not come in. That may delay your medical care if you can't get up and come and secure the animal. One of the biggest things that we deal with is the dog's reaction when somebody comes to the door, rings the doorbell, knocks on the door, and they come in and the dog goes absolutely crazy. That's under the best case circumstances, when it's just a normal everyday. When there's something going on, a medical emergency, the dog's going to be more and more wound up. So that's the first reason. The second reason is, if your dog, everybody thinks about, like, I'm feeling healthy today, so I don't think about being injured or ill. And they're the same way about their dog. Your dog today, your dog's doing great, and then all of a sudden something happens, your dog has an illness or an injury, and the vet tells you to limit their activity. If your dog is not calm and cool and used to being in a crate, that's going to be really, really hard to do. So it might put you back into the vet with, stitches ripped out and whatever the case may be. All right, so let's talk about the crate as a tool. And when I talk about it as a tool, I'm talking from playpen to rocking chair. All right, so we bring a dog into our house. The dog is new into our house, whether it's a puppy or it's a rescue, it's a couple years old. When you can't watch that dog you want to put it in the crate because it avoids the dog being able to get into things, injure themselves, or cost you a lot of money. Okay? And so my thing is, in our house with our dogs, what we do, if the dog will go 6 months while we're home without getting into anything that they're not supposed to, then they're allowed out when we're not home. Some of our dogs are never going to be able to do that. Some of our dogs can, and the ones that can, they earn that, they're going to do that. Now, I don't care. I mean, and I'm serious when I say this. I don't care if I come home. I wouldn't be happy about it, but I wouldn't care if I came home and the dog had chewed my couch. If I came home and the dog had chewed the couch and got a piece of the foam stuffing in their mouth and they had choked and died and I wasn't there, that would break my heart, and I'd blame myself for that because I had the capability to put them in the crate and avoid that situation. So how do we get the dog to like the crate? The easiest way for me, and what we do, well, again, whether we're getting a puppy or we are getting a rescue, is we feed the dog in the crate. And you guys know I like to talk to the dogs very little unless I'm using my voice for praise. All right. So what I do is I take the food, put it in a stainless steel bowl, shake it, and I walk over and I put it in the crate. And I leave it there for 15 minutes. If the dog walks over and goes in the crate without saying anything, I close the door. The dog gets 15 minutes to eat. I open it up. I take it away. The dog goes out. I will not give a dog any food outside the crate until they're used to going in the crate to get their food. I'm a fat kid. I've always been a fat kid. If you told me, George, the only place that you're going to get to eat any food is in your garage, and you're going to eat at 7:30 and 5:30, you know where I'm going to be at 7:30 and 5:30? I'm going to be in the garage because that's the only place I'm going to get anything to eat. You have to have structure with the dog. It's not the dog's food. It's your food that you're done with that you're now giving to the dog, just like it works in a pack. Even a puppy, within a very, very short period of time, when you're getting that food, that puppy won't be around you. That puppy will be sitting calmly inside the crate waiting for that food. That's how you make a dog love the crate. Now, you guys know I don't use a ton of commands, but what I do use is that so when I'm training a dog for me, so Odin, my old English bulldog, my service dog, he's trained in German. So when he was young and I started doing that and he started going to his crate, as he was going to his crate, I would just say, box, and he'd go in there. And now, as a 7-year-old dog, we've done it for so long, as soon as he knows it's time to eat, he goes and he waits in his cage. Usually he'll wait in his cage quite a bit because he's hoping that somebody thinks that I did not feed him, and he'll make the mistake of getting fed again, because that has happened. All right? But as soon as I say box, no matter what he's doing, anytime during the day, if I go, Odin, box, he goes and he sits in a crate and he's totally calm. Because I do not want to have to try to be getting a hold of him if, like I said, there's something at the door. You know, he's a good boy. He's not going to go out. He's going to be calm anyway. But I need to be able to get all the dogs, in there like that. I don't like putting them in, like I said, I don't like putting them in a room or outside or stuff, because then, say you're the only person that has, your dog, and you're unconscious, and the dog's out in the yard. Sometimes people forget and they leave them out in the yard. They leave them in the basement, they leave them in a room, and then they destroy the room. It's just easier to have a crate. All right. And so just like when they're a young dog and you don't know what their personality is yet, you don't know what they're into, just like a kid, whenever you can't keep eyes on them, they have to go in the crate. Because if they don't, anything they destroy, any injury they occur is 110% your fault. When we have a 2-year-old, we don't go upstairs and jump in the shower for 30 minutes and leave them wandering around. They just don't have the knowledge, and they're just going to get into things. Same thing with the dog. The dog is just exploring with their mouth, unfortunately, right? So that's what we want to do. We want to start the feeding ritual in the crate and get them to go in there on that command. And it's not a big deal. It's not this big event, this work, the dog is going to eat probably 2 to 3 times a day, go about a week without saying a word, and watch the dog go into the crate, and then start adding the box command or the crate command or whatever you want to call it, home, whatever you want to call it, as the dog is walking in there, and they're going to associate that, and it's not going to take any time at all before they're doing exactly what you want them to do. Now, crate placement. You don't want the crate in your garage. You don't want it in your basement. You don't want it in a room, that's closed off from everybody and everything. The best place for a crate is facing wherever you sit when your family's hanging out and lounging and watching TV, watching a movie, whatever. You want the crate facing you away from the TV. So if the TV's up on the wall facing the couch, that's how you want your crate. The reason why is we want the dog to understand that the crate is their lazy boy. That is a very, very happy place to be. So you're sitting where you're sitting, everybody's sitting where they need to sit, where it's comfortable for them. When your dog is in the crate laying down, they should be able to just look up with one sleepy eye and see their entire pack. That gives them a real feeling of well-being. And then it becomes very natural to them to be in that spot, in the crate. If the crate is in a room somewhere down in the basement, you're basically putting your dog in ADSEG, and you're depriving them of stimulation. And that's not a good thing. Just like it's not a good thing, you don't want to cover the crate with all kinds of blankets and everything all the time. Because I know people say, well, it overstimulates a dog and the dog won't calm down. What's going to happen is, again, just like being segregation, like a person in prison, they need a certain amount of stimulation because they need to be able to deal with a certain amount of stimulation. You're never, ever helping your dog by totally avoiding anything that makes them feel uncomfortable. It's just not realistic, and it's not a good idea. And then now, you're sitting there looking at your dog now. I remember Odin, he was a puppy 7 years ago. He's like this little guy, but now he's 7 years old, and he's going to get older. Hopefully we'll have him for a bunch more years. But dogs do get old. So they need a rocking chair, a lazy boy rocking chair, and that's what their crate is. As they get older, and they're not sick, but they got aches and pains just like all of us do, or they don't feel good, or they just don't want to be bothered, when they go in that crate, they don't have to worry about anybody stepping on them, anybody falling on them. They're in there, and they're safe, and they're secure, and it gives them a nice, calm, peace state of mind. I wasn't going to talk about this in this video, but I will mention it. So what I've been dealing with a lot is that grandparents. So grandma and grandpa, they have a dog, and the dog lives with just them. And the older we get, the slower we get, hopefully the calmer we get. And so the dog is used to this nice, steady, easygoing pace. And the dog was not raised around kids. And then the grandkids start coming over. And when the grandkids start coming over, the dog is totally overwhelmed. These little humans are making a bunch of noises, and they're screaming and yelling. And the dog, one, is either going to get scared and avoid and hide, or two, may start nipping and trying to protect its space because, again, it doesn't want to get stepped on. And if it does get stepped on, it's going to remember that, as dogs do. So if it's a thing where, the grandkids aren't over the house all the time, and they're going to be coming from a visit, they're out of state or whatever the case may be, you're going to have to get your dog socialized around the kids that are the same age. So if you have kids in the neighborhood, just when they're out there riding their bikes and stuff and running around, just stand there with your dog on a leash and ignore them. Anytime that they pull on the leash, just give them a little pop so they start focusing on you, or go to the playground and just let them get used to the screaming and yelling so that they don't focus on the kid when that happens. They focus on you, and they realize it's not a big deal and they don't have to respond to it. All right, guys. If you guys want, I can expand more on that. I did a video the other day showing an Aussie that was having a problem, nipping after the grandkids. Again, not to be aggressive, but these herding dogs, when things run and they move, they want to nip at their heels, and that's just not a good thing because little kids don't have hooves; they have feet, and feet have skin, and that hurts. All right. So again, if you're having a problem, any kind of problem you're having with your dog, no matter what state, no matter how old they are, it's never too late to start over with a crate and give yourself some peace of mind and give your dog some stability and a schedule and give them a place that belongs to them. All right. I appreciate it. Thanks. And we'll talk to you guys next time.